It is episode 131 of Decoding Fox News, and I'm your host, Juliet Jeske. Each week, I watch and analyze a whole heck of a lot of Fox News, and then break it down. Thor is already meowing. I watch all the Fox News you'd never want to. Thor is my cat, if you're new to the podcast. Last week, it was 19 hours of Fox News. Heaven help me. Let's just get right into it. Post-debate meltdown, Fox News blames the refs.
Much more aggressive, much into fact-checking. And they were ready to fact-check the former president.
Just moderators were supposed to be neutral referees, but to fact-check Trump. And
nobody did any fact-checking. If somebody wants to fact-check.
The moderators then came to the fact checks there.
Why they did the fact-checking at the time, or the moderators?
The moderator just said, you see, she used the moderators to.
The moderators had corrected Trump.
The worst moderated.
Nice to stick it to Donald Trump.
Should the moderators do any fact-checking? To fact-check everything.
ABC moderators David Muir and Lindsay Davis getting called out after aggressively fact-checking Trump 5 times, but 0 times for Harris.
Sheer nonsense of these idiot moderators. But I saw the moderators, the structure, the choreography, the setup.
Expect the person to point out their deficiencies or even the moderator.
He's fighting the moderators who are throwing lies at him. Every time she lied, they would not fact check her. She says 140.
The so-called moderators barely asked the vice president about any massive flip-flops. Trump got nothing but hostile treatment from the moderators. Fact checks, gotcha questions. So guess how many times these moderators fact-check Kamala Harris?
So last week, the folks on Fox treated the moderators of the last presidential debate as if they were beleaguered soccer referees at a sprawling suburban athletic park, calling plays on a bratty, spoiled child and a gifted scholarship student who came prepared to win. How dare anyone fact-check their glorious leader as he rambled on about concepts of a non-existent plan to replace Obamacare while making false claims about IVF and abortion laws. In last week's transcripts, the word moderator appeared 106 times. Fact check showed up 81 times, along with 136 instances of ABC. Meanwhile, the words Israel only appeared 28 times, with only 16 mentions of the word Ukraine. You'd think two major conflicts would get more attention on Fox, but no, we got to talk about the moderators. As Fox News hosts ranted about what they thought was ABC's unfair treatment of the former president, no one had a hint of self-awareness that they essentially work for the communications arm of the Republican Party and a division of Trump's 2024 campaign staff. The network transitioned from denial to anger regarding Trump's poor debate performance over the course of 72 hours. By Friday evening, Sean Hannity implied his audience would boycott Disney theme parks and that ABC was part of a deep state plot to take down Donald J. Trump. Anyone watching Fox News exclusively last week might not have known that 13 service members killed during the Afghanistan withdrawal received the Congressional Gold Medal, or that a judge in South Dakota overruled the state's abortion ban. Shows I covered last week: Fox and Friends with all 3 hours on Wednesday to catch Trump's phone call, The Five, Hannity, and all of the debate coverage on Fox News. One thing that I couldn't really fit in that montage for space was how Sean Hannity kept saying, because it would kind of confuse the montage, but Sean Hannity kept saying ABC Disney, Disney ABC, kept combining. And then at one point he actually said, I guess Disney doesn't want any Republicans at its theme parks, as if he had that much control over the universe, and that's it. Disney's done. Disney, the corporation, is over. Well, Ron DeSantis tried that, sir, and it didn't work. Anyway, and it just made me think, like, I'm going to get all of my LGBTQ friends. We are going to start a caravan. Yes, I said caravan. From Fire Island down to Orlando. Cover the buses in, like, rainbow flags. Show up with, like, glitter, fabulousness, you know, Mickey Mouse ears, because that's what you do, and, like, parade, full-on parade outfits, and just be like, we are here to spend our money. Okay, they have Pride events. Just try me. You know what I'm saying? Like, That's what's so funny when they try to boycott things, is you always get this like opposite effect. So I just, I've never been to Disney World. I did not grow up with any money. So Disney World was like a far off dream as a child. Like, are you kidding me? We never left the state. If we did, it was Southern Illinois, and it was to go to Our Lady of Snows, which is probably still there. It was a shrine. Anyway, fun times. I'm making fun of myself. We went to caves. There's caves in Missouri. Caves, and we got season passes at Six Flags over Mid-America, so we went to Six Flags a lot because we didn't have to pay because we had my dad's union. Anyway, we could get a deal on a season pass. I'm telling you way too much. And moving on, I'm preparing you for what I'm about to play. This next clip, brace yourself, grip something. If you need a beverage, get a beverage. If you need to pet a cat, pet a cat. But this is important. It needs to be played. But it's rough. This is Donald J. Trump. This is a montage, a condensed edit of Donald J. Trump calling in the day after the debate. And he had to call in at like some ungodly early hour. And he complained about it on air. But this is, I don't have that section, but this is Donald J. Trump calling in to Fox and Friends to sort of rant about the debate. Here you go.
I think ABC took a big hit last night. I mean, to be honest, they're a news organization. They have to be licensed to do it. They ought to take away their license for the way they did that. Bloodbath was referring to the economy. Everybody loved the term because as soon as they heard the word, it's sort of a vicious word, but referring to the economy.
So Donald J. Trump says all the time that he doesn't even understand why anybody would think he wants to be a dictator. Then he goes on to Fox and Friends and threatens to revoke the broadcasting license of one of the 3 major networks in the United States because he didn't like how he was treated in a debate. Wow, doesn't sound like a dictator to me at all. You dictator, you want to be dictator. This next one is just full of blatant lies. Here you go.
IVF, the IVF, which is fertilization, I was a total leader on that. When I first heard about it, like right from the beginning, I was one of the leaders on it, and the Republican Party has been a leader on it. She tried to say it was just the opposite.
I don't know about you, but when I think of Donald J. Trump, I don't think of his bankruptcies or his failed marriages or his cheesy ridiculousness or his stupid TV show or his dumb promotions that he tried to get off the ground that all failed, like the Trump Steaks and Trump the Game and Trump Shuttle and Trump Ice and Trump Mortgage, and I'm just going on here. I don't think of the many women who've accused him of sexual assault or the dumb commercial that he appeared in for Pizza Hut or McDonald's. I believe it was McDonald's. I don't remember. I know he was in some commercials. I don't think of that. No. I think Donald J. Trump, champion of IVF, because he was there from day one, from the beginning, as he just said. The first successful IVF birth happened in 1978. And yeah, we all know that Trump the whole time, I'm kidding. I'm being sarcastic. The man's disgusting and he's lying through his teeth.
I've been told I'm a good debater. I think it was one of my better debates, maybe my best debate, I think. I don't know.
Well, Mr. President, I know when we started the interview, you said that you felt that you won the debate last night, your best ever. I think before the debate happened last night, the Kamala Harris people said that they would actually like to do another debate in October. And I know that last night Fox News sent letters to your campaign and her campaign offering 3 dates of debates moderated by Martha and Brett. One is October 9th in Arizona.
Well, I wouldn't want to have Martha and Brett. I'd love to have somebody else other than Martha and Brett. I'd love to have, frankly, Sean or Jesse or Laura. Somebody else. Let's give other people a shot. But I didn't think Martha and Brett were good last night. I thought Jesse was fantastic last night. What he said, Jesse really got it. Jesse said Trump won that debate. We won that debate by a lot. No.
Again, I don't know why anybody would think Trump wants to be a dictator, considering he thinks he can dictate everything that everybody does, that you can't criticize him at all, ever, at any time. And Martha and Brett were both like, wow, that was kind of lackluster. That's about the breadth of how critical they were of him. And now he's out ready to get them both fired from Fox. Jesse, by the way, did not say, I watched all of the coverage pre-debate and post-debate, went through it twice. Jesse's quote was, and I pulled this from the clip, "I don't think the American people are watching thinking any of these people won."
Hey, I've got a quick question for you. Out of nowhere, after the debate last night, Taylor Swift endorsed Kamala Harris. What do you think?
Well, I actually like Mrs. I actually like Mrs. Mahomes much better, if you want to know the truth.
So Trump just reduced one of the most popular, successful pop stars of all time, she's worth $1 billion, Taylor Swift, to the girlfriend of a football player, because Patrick Mahomes' wife sort of, tacitly supported Trump, and she's since walked that back. She didn't like how Trump treated Taylor Swift, apparently. He just reduced Taylor Swift to somebody's girlfriend. Way to go there, Trump. Why do women hate you? I don't know. And, here's the last one.
And cutting through the noise there, what is your question for the former president?
Hello, President Trump.
Hi.
I'm just curious on how you're going to combat all the fake news and break through some of the noise to get the undecided voters to vote for you this November.
Well, by doing
question,
a
Mr.
show
President.
like this,
what are you going to do?
It's a great question, because you really do it by doing a show like this with Lawrence and the group. You have to get your word out, and you don't have a fair media. You have a very liberal, biased media.
So again, I'm not a dictator. I will only appear on propagandist networks who are kind to me. Okay, thank you, Donald J. Trump. That last question was asked by somebody in a diner. Lawrence Jones was on location in Washington, Pennsylvania, speaking to Fox fans. What's so funny about the diner segments is they're always like, let's go to the diner. Let's see what people in the diner think, especially Ansley Einhart. She's all about the diners. And I'm like, you realize, of course, that the diners are fans of Fox News. This is not just the general public. These are people who get up at 4 o'clock in the morning or 3 o'clock in the morning, depending on the time zone, to go sit in a diner hoping that somebody from Fox will walk around with a microphone and shove it in their face, and they'll get to be like, I love President Trump. Okay, I just made them all Southern, but they're usually Southern, and they're usually geriatric, and they're usually draped in like 20 American flags. It's like, how much can we violate the flag code in one outfit? They're pushing the boundaries, pushing them. Okay, next, we got a lot to cover. Next up, I had fun editing this, though. I did. I did enjoy myself. This is the day after, dun, 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 on the 5, the pulse of Fox News, their reaction to Trump's abysmal performance in the debate. Here we go.
What did you think about last night?
Well, I don't know who won, but I know who lost. It was the American people. I honestly don't know how anyone can decide who won the debate. That's like trying to guess the price of a painting that you suspect is a forgery. This is truly the first DEI debate. Congratulating Kamala for the debate is stolen valor.
So that was obviously me cutting up a longer rant of Greg Gutfeld, but I just really wonder, did he just write down catchphrases like, I'm going to work in DEI, and then it will somehow work in stolen valor, and then I've got this brilliant analogy of a painting you suspect is a forgery. Wow. Deep. He was reading that off paper. It's so bright. This next one is very rich, from Dana Perino.
I was talking to a friend today who reminded me of the phrase of Fred Astaire, or Ginger Rogers had to do everything backwards and in heels. That's Republicans.
That phrase is usually used to represent that women have to work twice as hard as a man, which is especially ridiculous that she just used it to talk about somebody who's been, that a jury found liable of sexual assault. Okay, and somebody who's a known misogynist. So thanks, Dana Perino, for that one.
What I came away with that knowing, and I agree with Greg, the voters lost last night. The voters lost for several reasons. And the questions were like a push poll. Like you call someone up allegedly trying to get, find out what people are thinking. But, isn't it true that the rooster killed the duck or whatever? And, the person said, yeah, of course it's true. Last night was the end of the legacy media. CNN just kind of sat there. But you know why? You know why it was level with CNN? Because CNN was complicit with the Dems. They wanted Joe Biden out on January 6th. What police officer died on January 6th? Who the hell do they think they are fact-checking? So they pushed lies. They defamed the president to push Kamala, who answered no question and was the queen of theatrics.
Mark your calendars. Judge Jeanine Pirro just called another woman the queen of theatrics. What do you even do with that? I mean, this entire, all of last week could just be renamed Fox News has no self-awareness. Kids, lady, I wouldn't be calling people drunk, which she's done before. I wouldn't do that. She's called Kamala Harris a drunk before. She has. I also wouldn't call any other person the queen of theatrics when you yourself could split marble with the sound of your voice. Just cut it right in half. I wonder if people hire her for that. Anyway, I still think my idea of the Judge Jeanine alarm clock is brilliant, and someone should steal that from me just to make money. Come on. Be a capitalist. Anyway, I'm going to fact check her here. So the Capitol Police released a report the day after the riot that included the death of U.S. Capitol Police Officer Brian Sicknick, who passed away due to injuries sustained while on duty. The report stated that Sicknick was injured while physically engaging with protesters. He returned to his division office and collapsed. And the Washington Post reported on April 19th that the District of Columbia Chief Medical Examiner Francisco J. Diaz found that Sicknick suffered 2 strokes nearly 8 hours after being sprayed with a chemical irritant during the riot. Diaz told the Post that Sicknick died of natural causes, but all that transpired played a role in his condition. So, yes, a police officer did die. There was also 3 other deaths besides Ashley Babbitt. And 2 were heart attacks and 1 was an accidental drug overdose. And it was all partly due to the stress of that crazy mob. So they just completely forget, to downplay everything, including the fact that Trump supporters died.
Signature moments that you see on the internet after this, she didn't have any. She didn't have any. Trump had them all.
For the past 3.5 years, we've talked about her word salads. We've talked about the people who have left her office. We've talked about the resets. We talked about, did we lower the bar so that when she came across as articulate, everybody's like, she should run to be president?
It was orchestrated as an ambush to create the desired anger. It's like saying, look how wet the witch got as you dunk her in water. They targeted him from all sides, and they baited him. And at a certain point, it took 15, 20 minutes before finally he had enough.
Angry little Greg Gutfeld there getting all worked up at the end. Call me a wambulance, Gutfeld. Call me a wambulance. Donald J. Trump is an adult who supposedly runs some sort of business empire, who has, ridiculous amounts of experience with public speaking, and he failed miserably at the debate. Get over it. I do want to comment, though, on Jesse Waters, because his comment about no viral moments. There is one viral moment that came out of this debate, and we all know which one it is. It was Trump ranting about how Haitian migrants are eating, or I should say Haitian immigrants are eating dogs and cats and your pets. And then when challenged, he said, but I saw it on television. Brilliant. I mean, he looked like a raving lunatic. That's the viral moment of the debate. That is the viral moment. Kamala Harris looked like a superstar, just dodging, weaving, moving, making everything happen. I still want to do it. I ran out of time. I want to apologize for not doing the written version of the debate. I just completely ran out of time last week. I was overwhelmed because I made a video version of the thread based on some feedback, and that took a lot longer than I thought. Although PBS didn't really give me anything to work with. They did 11 minutes. So you didn't really miss out. It'd basically just be a transcript of the Twitter thread that I already made. One of the things that I want to still go back and do, and it would be a video, is there was a moment in the debate where Kamala Harris pivoted from a question about the border. And there's too many immigrants coming across. How do you answer that? Basically is what they asked her. And within 4 parries of just back and forth between her and Trump, very quickly Trump was talking about the people he had fired in his White House and how they hated him. And I was like, how did she do that? That's amazing. Like the idea that she just memorized lines and said them confidently, and that's how she bluffed her way through the debate, is absolutely false. As somebody who's done this sort of thing, who competed in tournaments when I was in high school, no, she was a master. She knew how to twist and turn and not answer a question, which is what politicians do. I am not criticizing her for that because they all do it. Every politician, if you're skilled, knows how to, if you get a difficult question, you know how to turn it around and answer it without answering it or answer it halfway. Because honestly, the vice president doesn't have that much power. You're just on the ticket with the president, and it's Biden's whole thing. And I think it's a little unfair because, like, think about any vice president and you're like, what did they do when they were in office? It's difficult, other than, like, I don't know, Mike Pence saved our country, believe it or not. But other than that, like, I don't know half the time. Anyway, strange but true. Tip of the hat, Mike Pence. Anyway, sorry, just Trump just gets me so worked up. Next up, we have day 2. We're going back to the 5. Day 2 of the 5, they've calmed down a bit. They're not as hysterical. Here we go.
I am pretty confident that Donald Trump is going to win this election. And when I lose my confidence, I will tell you. I will say it's official, I'm nervous. And I'm not anywhere close to that. And you can believe I will tell you I'm nervous because I've been nervous before and I've shared those nerves. But I feel great about this election. The last debate was a knockout, so I think people thought Trump could just knock this woman out again and be like, okay, off to the races. He didn't. There was no knockout, so now everyone's like, okay, it's going to be competitive. We're going to have to work for it, but the fundamentals are still in our favor. I'm a little annoyed now that they have more offices in Wisconsin. This is new information. And now I'm remembering.
It's not new information to people paying attention.
Okay, well, I'm not in the battlegrounds, Jessica.
All the same. It's not really about Trump at all. It's about that she was not Joe. So he perhaps should have adjusted to her. But the benefit and flaw of Trump is that he treats everybody the same. He doesn't see Kamala as, a African-American woman or Trump as an old white male. He just sees them as the competition, and he doesn't modulate.
That has no basis in reality, Greg Gutfeld, but okay, sure. I mean, it's well known that he doesn't react the same way to women that he does to men, but okay, great. We're going with that. Before I play the next clip, I should, because we're halfway through, I should give a shout out to my sponsor. And who might that sponsor be? Oh, the listeners of this podcast and the readers of my newsletter. That's right. I am 100% crowdsourced, meaning I have no large donor, I have no large advertiser, I have no large sponsor. It's all hundreds of people subscribing every single month or donating to my Patreon every single month, and that's what keeps Decoding Fox News alive. All paid subscribers and paid supporters get exclusive content, which more should be coming from Project 2025. The debate kind of overwhelmed me last week, but I've got stuff in the hopper, so to speak. If you can't afford to become a paid subscriber or paid supporter, please share the podcast, share the newsletter with friends. That helps tremendously. I want to give a shout out. I didn't even know I had stuff left on the Amazon wish list. It was all cat treats, and I did. I thought it would all been purchased, but this week I got 2 more. So a quick shout out to Sabrina. I always leave off last names to protect people's privacies. Thank you so much, Sabrina. That's incredible. My cats were so excited. And then another person whose last name is one of my favorite Peanuts characters, and he has a username, this is not his name, of Husker Rat, called himself a blue dot in a red state. Thank you guys so much. The notes are so sweet. Both of you guys wrote little notes, which is tremendous. I really appreciate it. This is a micro-budget, shoestring budget media situation project, as it were. And things like cat treats from fans of the podcast for the podcast mascots, Odin and Thor, are always immensely appreciated. So on to the next clip. I just called this one, Jessica Tarloff gives a dose of reality to her co-hosts. Here we go.
To the premise of the segment, though, about whether she's getting too cocky, I don't know how anyone could listen to Democrats on TV, any Democrats that you know in your life, and not think that we are anything but sure of the fact that we're underdogs, working our butts off, and knowing that Donald Trump could be president again. Today was a good day, though, for Kamala and for Democrats. So the Fox News Power Rankings came out. Headline, Trump loses his edge. So North Carolina and Georgia shifting from lean Republican to a toss-up. Ipsos Morning Consult has her up 5. And Dana, to your point about the cash advantage, that's obviously huge. But you know what we're doing with our cash? We're actually running an election. We have a ground game. There have been a number of articles citing people like Ronna McDaniel, people who've run campaigns before, saying that Donald Trump is prepared for a midterm, not a general election. If you look at Wisconsin alone, a must-win state, Democrats have 48 field offices in 43 counties. They have 350 staffers in Pennsylvania alone. We're taking it much more seriously. We know that the get out the vote effort is actually what wins elections, especially in a race that's a dead heat.
All right.
Underestimating anything. It's the same thing, and I don't think that you can see any evidence of it in how we're approaching the mechanics of the election or even how cautious Kamala Harris is being. If she thought that this was a slam dunk situation, she'd be going absolutely everywhere and laughing in everyone's face and saying, oh, you think people are going to vote for that buffoon, that guy who says I have concepts of plans, that guy who it gets so mad because she mentioned people leaving his rallies that he spent the next hour and 15 minutes with smoke coming out of his head. That's what she would be doing if we were arrogant about this. Nothing is being taken for granted. And to the point about the Michigan undecided voters or the lack of undecided voters, there were a number of focus groups after the debate. Washington Post had 24 people, 22 of them said Kamala Harris was the one who won the debate. CNN had similar margins, and we had a snap poll from CNN, a snap poll from here at Fox with huge margins for her winning. Does that translate to Kamala Harris is going to be the next president? I don't know. But it means she had a very good night.
I will add that Jessica Tarloff said a lot of things that are very, very strong as far as getting out the vote is concerned. She is correct. The ground game is huge. Get out the vote is such a big, important part of any election, especially when it's a close election. And I will say, if you live in a state and you're very concerned about this next election and you live in a blue state that's solidly blue, like you live in Illinois or you live in New York, you live in California, and you want to do something. I know most campaigns have drives where they'll bus volunteers out to swing states and you can canvass in a swing state or you can volunteer in a swing state. I've done it. I highly recommend it. From what I know, the same people who helped with Obama's campaign are working on this one, who also worked on Hillary Clinton's campaign. And I did volunteer for Obama. I don't think I'm revealing too much about myself by saying this. This is way before I was a journalist. And I thought they just did a phenomenal job. One of the best campaigns I've ever worked on. The Obama people were just on point. I also, another thing you could do if you want to be completely neutral, is you can be an election protection volunteer. I did that in 2004 because in St. Louis in 2000, they had a bunch of problems with people being scrubbed from the voter rolls, and they were trying to see what was going on. It didn't get as much press because Florida got all the press. So they put this call out to anybody who would be willing to go to St. Louis. Now, most of the volunteers when I was there were in St. Louis already. They already lived there, but I have family there, and I figured, let's do this. So I flew out, stayed with my parents, and stayed in front of an election, like a polling place, which is a school in the northern suburbs of St. Louis, like a blue-collar, mostly black neighborhood. And we were there to help people who had problems voting. We had provisional ballots. You could do that. We also had questionnaires when people said they had suspected something that was basically trying to impugn their voting rights, and we did find patterns of that. Somebody had apparently gone around this neighborhood saying they were going to register you to vote, and it was mostly young black women, mostly young black mothers who signed up to vote thinking they were signing themselves up to vote, and they weren't registered. So we don't know what happened there, but that was a big problem in that district. And people really did appreciate the fact that people were there to protect their right to vote and to make sure that the process went as smoothly as possible. We got a very warm reception in that area. So just two things that you can do right there And again, one's neutral. You want to just be an election protection volunteer. You don't have to pick a party. You don't have to be. We actually weren't allowed to say anything like that. So we're completely 100% neutral, just trying to make sure that everybody got the right to vote. So anyway, moving on, we have Sean Hannity just making stuff up. Here we go. Here we go. This is from Wednesday. Sean Hannity talking about economic data that he was spinning to make it sound bad when it actually was quite good.
All right, more bad economic news today. The federal government reported that core CPI, which excludes energy and food prices, rose 3.2% year over year, which means that things are still getting more expensive, even after 3 long years of crushing inflation from Harris and Biden.
So what Hannity said there is technically correct, but he's being very misleading about it. Core CPI is an economic indicator that's closely watched. However, rising 3.2% year to year is very different than saying it rose from last month. So he's just looking at, like, it's kind of confusing to describe this, but I did include a graph from the data from the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics that shows the monthly rate of CPI from last year, from actually September 2023. And you can see in the graph that it drops every single month, nearly every single month, or stays the same. And it was over a year ago in September 2023, it was 4.5% roughly, according to this graph. The rate that he just quoted, 3.2%, was the exact same rate as it was in July. So it didn't actually rise from last month. It stayed the same. And if it follows the trend of the graph that I have in front of me, it will drop next month. Now, who knows? I got that graph from Trading Economics. You can find it in the newsletter. Now, here is PBS. This is the exact same day, reporting on the exact same economic data that was released.
Inflation reached a 3-year low last month, thanks largely to cooling gas prices. Today's report showed consumer prices rising just 2.5% in August compared to the same month last year. That's down from July's reading of 2.9% and a far cry from the 9.1% inflation we saw back in 2022. Today's report comes as Federal Reserve officials prepare to cut interest rates next week for the first time since early 2020.
Kind of amazing how 2 different networks are reporting on the exact same economic data. Hannity makes it seem like everything's doom and gloom. PBS is like inflation has dropped to 2.5%, which again, we're getting closer and closer to the sweet spot of 2%. They also said that gas prices are lower and that an interest rate cut is expected like any day now, which is true. And we could use it, and that's amazing. So just crazy how Hannity spun that. So next up, we go back to Hannity. This is Thursday now. And this is just kind of classic Hannity, which is why I included it. But it's just like, it's not just a debate to Hannity. It's like the end of the world. It's a vast conspiracy. Oh, this is a doozy. Here we go.
We are in the home stretch of a race that will impact the course of our country for decades to come. It is an inflection point for this country. And as most of you know, Donald Trump isn't just facing off against Kamala Harris. He is running against what are vicious, powerful institutions and a political machine that spans the Democratic Party. They're running against a state-run, corrupt Pravda media mob, a powerful deep state with bureaucrats in every department of your federal government, a weaponized Department of Justice. Oh, and to add insult to injury, he's running against big tech, too. They're all putting cinder blocks on the scale of an election. Now, the same political machine that booted Joe Biden from the ballot after he won millions of votes. Well, that same political machine has been trying to destroy Donald Trump for the better part of an entire decade. And yet, the polls tonight are close.
Just a little heavy-handed there, Sean Hannity, with the Pravda reference. That is a Soviet media situation with the Soviet Union. Pravda, give me a break. So he's basically saying that ABC, Disney, publicly traded company that anybody could buy shares in, is somehow owned by the state. So it's owned by the federal government. It's not at all. Even PBS receives a fraction of its funding from the federal government. It gets most of it through foundations and endowments and, people just donating and becoming subscribers. What are you even talking about? And then ABC, gets its funding from advertisers, so corporations. And ABC is obsessed with ratings, like all corporate media, because they have to be. I get it, but to call them state-run is absolutely absurd. And the deep state stuff is total, complete and utter nonsense. And this idea of this constant persecution of Trump, I'm just tired of it. Like, give it a rest. So next up we have, this one is, oh man, the clip kind of speaks for itself, but Bernie Sanders, who could really only speak for Bernie Sanders, made an inartful comment, although not that bad, honestly. People were commenting on this on Twitter going, actually what he said is like, I think that's reasonable. But Bernie Sanders made an inartful comment. Every politician does. I'm not bashing Bernie Sanders. Every politician does this on Meet the Press, that immediately got picked up on Fox and weaponized against Kamala Harris. No, I can't make this up. So these comments start on the 9th, which was Monday, and they kept going with this all the way until Friday. This was like one of these, we are going to pick this up and we are going to milk this for all it's worth. I had to cut some of the references out. It was too long. But yes, here we are, the parade of Bernie Sanders comments. Here we go.
Bernie Sanders says the quiet part out loud.
I don't think she's abandoning her ideals. I think she's trying to be pragmatic and doing what she thinks is right in order to win the election.
Even Bernie Sanders said that she's just doing this. She's not abandoning her progressive ideals, he said. She's just trying to be pragmatic in order to win.
So I think that's the most explosive soundbite to date. She's telling everyone what everyone fears that wants to vote for her. Is she pretending to have changed, or has she really changed? Bernie Sanders goes, she hasn't changed. Don't worry about it. She's still going to get elected.
Right. Bernie's just using different language than we've been using. We've been talking about her evolution to get elected. Bernie said she's pragmatic to get elected. But according to Senator Bernie Sanders, Harris is by no means ditching her values.
Bernie Sanders dropping a bombshell on Comrade Kamala right before the debate. Socialist Bernie Sanders just blew her cover.
Bernie said these are just lies. Trump should just say she's not flip-flopping. She's a fraud.
Bernie Sanders is asked if she's dropping her far-left policies. He says, quote, in order to win the election, he says, quote, she's trying to be pragmatic and do what she thinks is right in order to win the election.
Okay, Bernie's going to be on Meet the Press. Who's calling Bernie? Who's calling Bernie to tell him, absolutely, do not say that she is a radical progressive in sheep's clothing.
Pragmatic to win, lie to win. Bernie Sanders stumbled on the truth there.
Bernie Sanders says she's only doing it in order to win the election. She is a progressive liberal.
Bernie Sanders, he said the quiet part out loud. She's not changing her positions. She's only being pragmatic to win an election.
Not fair. And Bernie Sanders even said she's being pragmatic just to win. Which
Bernie Sanders, her values never changed. I don't think she's abandoning her ideals. She's just pragmatic about what she needs to do to get elected.
Bernie Sanders is right. She's being pragmatic to win an election.
Kamala Harris is lying to you. When she wants you to think she's a moderate, even Bernie Sanders says she's saying what she's got to say to win an election.
Those are put in the order that they were said on Fox, but my personal favorite, because that came on Friday, was Kamala Harris is lying to you. I'm Judge Janine, and I'm here to tell you she's a secret communist, and she's going to invade your home and take everything you own, and then turn it into China. So Odin the cat has just jumped on my lap to say hello, but as he does that, I'm going to explain why that's such a problematic thing. So Senator Bernie Sanders, I should say, made the comment, not Kamala Harris. And Bernie Sanders cannot read Kamala Harris's mind, and he really shouldn't be speaking for her. He can give his opinion about Kamala Harris, but he doesn't know her intentions or motivations. None of us do. And I'm going to use this as a teachable moment right now because today I posted a comment that the editor-in-chief of National Review made. He was on the Megyn Kelly show, and he was referring to Haitian migrants in Ohio. And it sounded as he was describing them, as he said the N-word, caught himself and stopped and switched to migrant. It was a little hard to hear. I slowed it down 30% and did maintain the pitch, meaning it didn't get lower. I just slowed it down to 30%. It sounded much worse when I did that. It sounded clearer that he said the N-word. I posted it, and I basically left it kind of like, well, this is what I heard, but I didn't say definitively if he said it or not, because as a journalist, that's not my job. My job is to inform the public. My job is not to declare things like, this is how it is. No, unless I know something 100%, I don't use declarative language. And it frustrates people that journalists do this, but we have very good reasons for doing this. It's called, I can't read his mind. I do not know his intention. I don't want to get sued for slander or libel. I'm going to leave that open-ended. That's how journalism is supposed to work. If I make the decision to start using declarative language, this person's a liar, that person's a liar. I mean, I'll say it about Trump because he is, but for the most part, I don't use those terms. I don't use that kind of language because it opens me up to legal liability, and then I go outside the boundaries of what I'm supposed to be doing as a journalist. I can never read somebody's mind. I can never know their intention. I can suspect it. I can comment on it, like I do sometimes with Fox personalities. But in general, it's just a bad idea because we don't know. We don't know what's going inside somebody's head, and we shouldn't assume. So when I posted that comment, by the way, of the editor-in-chief of National Review, on Instagram and Threads, now again, this is just his words. I didn't type the N-word in my copy. I didn't. The captions did not say the N-word. The captions were AI generated from Premiere Pro. I stuck it on Instagram and Threads, and both of those platforms flagged it for hate speech and removed it. So that says something there. And I did find some of the comments that people were giving me ridiculous online because people just do not understand legal liability. And so they were like coming at me like I was being weak or defending him by saying, I think I hear. Come on, you have no idea how we cannot. If I start turning into, this is what that man thought, and this is what he said, and I know 100% that he said it, even when I don't have proof, because the clip is a little unclear, then I turn into Fox News. And I am not propaganda, and I don't want to turn into Fox News. So just want to clarify that. Journalists use weak language all the time, and we do so for a very good reason. Probably, seems, appears. All of that is to give us a little bit of wiggle room if we don't know something 100%. We really shouldn't say it. And we can never read minds, and I can never know somebody's intention. And Bernie Sanders doesn't either. I don't think he meant anything bad by his comment. I think it just got blown out of proportion by Fox. But moving on, we're going to go into stories Fox News ignored. Every week, I compare the hours I've watched on Fox News with 5 hours of the PBS NewsHour. The following list are stories that PBS covered that Fox News did not. Starting with climate disasters. Typhoon Yagi, the most powerful Asian storm of the year, has killed at least 200 people in Vietnam. The storm also caused extensive damage, flooding, and power outages throughout Southeast Asia. Updates in the Israel-Hamas war. In Turkey, hundreds attended the funeral of Ashkenur Ezgi Egi, a Turkish-American citizen who was killed by the IDF during a protest against extremist Israeli settlers in the occupied West Bank. The IDF has said her killing was unintentional and has expressed the deepest regret for her death. The White House has called for an investigation. An Israeli airstrike killed at least 19 and injured 60 in a tent camp Israel had designated an humanitarian zone. The Israeli military said it struck Hamas militants who had set up a command center in the area. Israel released footage of a tunnel in Gaza where it says 6 hostages were killed by Hamas. The tunnel was deep underground with no bathroom and poor ventilation. An Israeli intelligence commander has resigned after critics claimed he did not do enough to prevent the October 7th attack. Updates to the war in Ukraine. The United States committed to sending $700 million in humanitarian aid to help Ukraine rebuild its energy grid, which has been badly damaged by repeated Russian shelling. Russian airstrikes killed 3 members of the Red Cross who were unloading an aid truck. Russia said that it has recaptured 10 settlements that were seized by Ukrainian forces. Ukraine has managed to hold on to most of the territory it claimed during a surprise incursion. The United States State Department has added more sanctions on Russia's state media, Russia Today, also known as RT, on top of existing sanctions. Secretary of State Antony Blinken said RT is a key part of Russia's war machine and its efforts to undermine its democratic adversaries. House Speaker Mike Johnson on Tuesday promiscuously presented Congress's highest honor, the Congressional Gold Medal, to 13 U.S. service members who were killed during the disastrous withdrawal from Afghanistan, even as the politics of a presidential election swirled around the event. Fox did not mention this. I triple-checked my transcripts. I was shocked, but they didn't mention this. The trial for 3 of the officers charged with the death of Tyre Nichols started last week. Nichols, a 29-year-old black man, was beaten to death by Memphis police officers during a traffic stop. The officers are also black. They are being tried as co-defendants and have pled not guilty. According to the U.S. Census, U.S. median household income rebounded since the pandemic. Poverty fell. Men saw larger increases in income than women. Voters in Missouri will be able to vote on Amendment 3 in November, which would restore reproductive rights and the right to abortion in the state. Missouri has been an extremely anti-choice state since Roe v. Wade passed in 1973. PBS produced a segment about the key differences between how Trump and Vice President Harris would implement tariffs if they were elected. Trump's plan for broad, sweeping tariffs would most likely increase prices for consumers, hitting the lowest income Americans the hardest. A state judge struck down North Dakota's abortion ban, declaring that broad guarantees of personal liberty in the state's constitution create a fundamental right to abortion before a fetus is viable. The state's GOP Attorney General promised to appeal the decision. The U.S. imposed sanctions on 16 Venezuelan officials aligned with President Nicolas Maduro for what the Biden administration claims is their role in obstructing a free and fair election in the country. Attorney General Merrick Garland said that he would not allow the Justice Department to be used as a political weapon as he denounced conspiracy theories and dangerous falsehoods targeting federal law enforcement. The CEO of the nation's largest private for-profit hospital chain is under fire for ignoring a subpoena to testify before the Senate. The hearing examined the financial collapse of Stewart Healthcare, a group created by a private equity firm that generated huge fortunes for investors and its CEO, but left patients in dangerous conditions. North Korea released photos of Kim Jong-un in a uranium enrichment facility. Although the North Korean government did not reveal the exact location, analysts were able to identify, from details in the photographs, a particular site near Pyongyang. 3 U.S. citizens have been sentenced to death by a military court in the Democratic Republic of Congo for their role in a coup attempt against the president. The lawyer who represented the defendants said he would file an appeal. The WHO, World Health Organization, has announced the MVA/BN vaccine as the first vaccine against Mpox to be added to its pre-qualification list. PBS produced a segment about how universities are adjusting their policies regarding protests and demonstrations on campus after a surge of pro-Palestine protests last semester. Frankie Beverly, singer, musician, and founder of the R&B band Maze, has died at the age of 77. Although the band never achieved mainstream pop success, it was incredibly successful in the R&B charts. Beverly was still performing until earlier this year when he announced his retirement. In July, he received a special award from the Essence Festival in New Orleans. By the numbers, every week I compare the top 5 topics on Fox to the top 5 topics on PBS. Here we go. Number 1, presidential debate for Fox was 34%. Kamala bashing, where they just rip on Vice President Kamala Harris, 24%. Blatant promotion of Trump, 16%. 9/11 memorial, 5%. 4% border crisis. PBS, number 1 was 20%, presidential debate. Harris versus Trump, which is just the presidential race, 8%. Haitian immigrants in Ohio, 7%. 6% artist profile, and 6% Israel-Hamas war. I want to point out that the segment that PBS produced about the Haitian immigrants in Ohio debunked the negative conspiracy theories Donald J. Trump and Senator J.D. Vance have promoted about the community. PBS spoke to local officials, business owners, as well as long-term residents and new immigrants in Springfield, Ohio. The interesting thing about that segment, and there's a link to it in the newsletter, is PBS had already done a segment on Springfield, Ohio that was not related to these insane conspiracy theories about Haitian immigrants eating pets, which is false, of course. They had already gone there to talk about the surge of immigrants into the community, and they'd already produced a segment on it, so they went back and revisited it. I thought that was kind of amazing. They spoke to people who were like pro and con the immigrant population coming in. So you got both sides of it. I highly recommend the segment. One of the employers was just like, I love Haitians. I would love to hire as many Haitians as possible. They're wonderful workers. And I was like, tip of the hat, sir. I can say from my own experience as somebody who worked in the service industry, I've worked with people who had various different degrees of legality regarding their immigration status. Some here were here 100% legally. Some were kind of like halfway. Trust me, there's degrees of how you can work legally in the United States or whatever. And in New York, especially, immigrants are from all over the world here. So Africa, South and Central America, Eastern Europe, mainly in New York. But I can say from my firsthand experience that immigrants will work harder than anyone I've ever seen in my life. And they will smile at the end of their shift. They're just so happy to have work, and they're just happy to escape whatever bad situation they came from. That's usually why they came to the United States, because they're fleeing something much, much worse. Just wonderful experiences. I don't really understand this stereotype that they're coming here to get, free money and free housing and just live off American taxpayers. It's not at all what I've seen whatsoever. So next up, we have words used on Fox for the week ending September 15th, 2024. Trump topped the list at 819. That is a lot. Kamala, 481. Biden, 285. Border, 153. ABC, as in the news network, 136. Moderator, 106. Economy, 94. Fact check, 81. Crime, 78. Bernie, 62. Inflation, 55. Disney, 46. Israel, 28. Only 28. Ukraine, only 16. China, 6. The phrase 3 against 1, that's referring to the debate. 5. Hunter, as in Hunter Biden, 1. Oh, how he has fallen off that list. And then AOC, she's always on the list no matter what, 1. Shocking, but true. So that's the end of the podcast. Thank you so much for listening. If you'd like to check out more of my work, you can go to X, also known as Twitter, Threads, Instagram, Facebook, Blue Sky, YouTube, TikTok. I think I got them all. I don't know. If you'd like to become a subscriber, I always need subscribers because I always get some, lose some. That's what happens. It's the nature of the beast. Please go to my Substack for Decoding Fox News. Subscriptions start at $5, or you can go to my Patreon. It's also very helpful. The mascots of the podcast, Odin and Thor, send their love, and you can listen to a version of this podcast on the Resolute Square YouTube channel. Thank you so much. I will see you at the next podcast.
Resolute Square.